good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching the Student Athlete Playbook video conversation, we say thank you. I am Barry Brown, author of the Amazon bestseller, The Student Athlete Playbook, Success in the Classroom, Sports and Life, and also a member of the team Youth Education and Sports, where we help young people, young student athletes develop into the outstanding adults that they're destined to be. Character matters. And you know how we do. We bring on the best student athletes, the best parents, the best coaches, the best youth service providers, the best business people that help our young people and our communities grow and develop and be great. And today is no different. I have a mentor of mine, a gentleman I met, man, many years ago now. It's been a long time now. Yeah. But man, I appreciate this brother because he's mentored me. He's been there for me and my organization, and he's just been a friend. But at the same time, he's a big time businessman. And you're going to find out how big he is as we continue to talk today. So without further ado, let me bring on and say hello to my brother, Mr. Ty Cohen. How you doing today, man?
Barry, I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing even better now that I'm speaking to you, man. Now that I'm here. I think I told you the other day. So as I was going through the questions, I'm looking at the questions and I'm like, this is going to be really good. Because you and I always have a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. So unintentionally, we go into just having a great conversation. So now I can imagine what it's going to be like when there's intentionality in it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Well, man, when I first met you, shout out to our brother Jawar, because I initially met you through Jawar, and then I started looking back at stuff, and I said, oh, wait a minute. I think I met him before in some music stuff. I just didn't remember about Millennium. And that's when we originally met. And then it came full circle with Jawar introducing us intimately as far as we met in person. So I believe it was me, you, Jawar, and Cool Water, our brother Dewan. We met for lunch that day. Yeah. Man, and it's been on and popping ever since, man. So thank you, Jawar, for connecting us the way we are connected now. And man, let's jump into this conversation, Ty. So the first thing I would like to know is, where are you from? Like our viewers. So hold on, before we go, Ty, let me say this. So we have student athletes that are going to watch this video. We're going to have parents, coaches, and the whole now educators watching this video. So these are the people you have the opportunity to help when we talk today with the great information you're going to give. So without further ado, so brother, where are you from?
Man, I am from Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is the cityest, countryest place ever. All right, we got when I say country, I'm talking about like there's elements where there's countryness, farmness, and Connecticut as a whole, right? But then when you look at Bridgeport, it's the most urban city-like area that you could ever think of. So
wow, okay,
that's it, man. So I had this experience of both, right? So being able to experience both worlds there to a degree.
So Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Bridgeport, Connecticut. I actually grew up in Father Canning Village, which now when I talk about Bridgeport and the city element of it, I grew up in one of the worst housing projects at the time in the U.S. Wow. Right. So if you go in and anyone looks at Google, and there's a reason why I'm sharing this with you, right? So if you go to Google and you type in Father Panic and then Panic spelled P-A-N-I-K Village, you'll see that during the early 90s, the early 80s, the late 80s, it was one of the worst housing projects nationwide, right? Per capita. And this was because of the drug era. We have crack and cocaine and heroin and everything. And then we're so close to New York, right? With just minutes away from New York. And you've got element that's coming in there. And then you've got element that was coming in from like, up in Massachusetts, so like Boston and that area there.
Yeah.
So it was a really rough time growing up as a kid.
Wow.
Very, very, very rough time. We didn't grow up, I was thinking about this earlier. we were extremely poor, but didn't know it.
That's right.
Right? We didn't
That's
know. So
right.
there's 7 of us. My mom's on welfare. She's getting about
Mhm.
$400 a month. And I mean, we just didn't even know it. But now you think back and you realize, like, how did she make it? Tupac has a song, right? He talks about with Dear Mama. He talks about
Yeah, Dear Mama. Mhm.
make miracles every Thanksgiving. And never realized how you did it. So in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, how did my mom do this with 6 kids and then later grandkids
Wow.
that came in and making things
Wow.
run smoothly, right? So that
Wow.
was it. That was it.
Wow. 6. So you had 5 siblings.
Man, I got a bunch of them. Some of them are no longer here.
I got you.
Yep, I got a sister who is no longer here. My sister Gwen. She actually passed in her 20s when I was about 12 years old. And then I got a brother Kevin who passed. He was just about going into 20 when he passed. He was about 20, 21
Wow.
maybe. And then I got a younger sister, Valerie, who passed very, very, very young.
I got
So
you.
now I still have 3 brothers and 1 sister. So it was a
I
bunch
got
of us. Yep,
I
it was a
got you.
bunch.
I see, man. Well,
Mhm.
well, here's the thing. Shout out to mom, first and
Mhm.
foremost, man. And salute to you and your siblings for for continuing to grow, obviously, because
Yep.
you here right now. We're talking to you right now. And so salute to your family, man, because I know it wasn't easy like you just described. And I agree with you totally. How do our parents, coming from some of the backgrounds that we come from, because I'm from Southwest Atlanta, Camden Road, that
Okay.
area of Atlanta on the south side, west side, excuse me. And then
Yep.
we moved out to Clayton County. So I represent Clayco too. Shout out to Clayco. And you hear about where I'm originally from, you hear about that side of town in a lot of rap songs.
You
So
do.
you
Yeah.
know.
I was gonna say, so you're one of the original Atlanta Knights.
Oh, absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely, and was fortunate to grow up with some of these people who made some of this music,
Mhm.
that put Atlanta on the map, back in the day. So I have a good understanding of what you just described. But when you start talking about you minutes away from New York and Boston,
Yeah.
now how close? Like when you say minutes, are you saying you come out of your neighborhood and you cross the state line and you in New York or something? Or
Yeah, man. So
how really close are you?
yeah, so we're 20, 30 minutes from New York, depending on where you're leaving, because Connecticut borders New York,
Correct.
right? So
Correct.
borders New York. So many times I actually I went to school music, and how we know each other is through Platinum Millennium Records, which is a record
Exactly.
label that I had. I had a
Mhm.
record label. I tried that, and then I took my experience, my knowledge in having a record label, and put it
Mhm.
into publishing books about the record and the music business, right?
Right.
And created
Right.
software programs around that, software programs that allowed artists and musicians and singers and songwriters and owners to create contracts, legal agreements and contracts.
Mhm.
So many times I would go up to New York. We're back and forth. So we would go up and my artists would be on radio stations up in New York, radio stations up in
Mhm.
Massachusetts, Boston, Rhode Island, New Jersey. And we would travel. I mean, some days we would actually get up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and we'd spend the
Yep.
entire day in a van or in the car traveling to different
That's
radio
right.
stations, national stations. So that was my experience right there with it coming up.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's why it was so funny when I finally met you in person. That's why I had to remember. Wait a minute, I met this brother through the music industry prior to Jawar,
I met
connecting
him in
us in
another life.
person.
That was it, right? In
Right.
another life.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
So it was just beautiful, man. So
mhm.
and I definitely remember them days of riding around in the car. Oh man, I don't want to go there right now. We'll probably come back to
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
But that was amazing. Now I just heard you say, so you took that knowledge from the music industry and you started going into digital publishing, internet. So now, if I remember correctly, me personally, let me see, early 1990s, I would say 93, 94. That's when I started hearing about the internet and the power of it and all that stuff. I think I tried to take a a class called Intro to Computers, like in 1994, like my last year of college, in the spring semester of that. And I'm gonna be honest, I haven't told a lot of people this because I consider myself a great student, Ty. But man, I made a 52 on that first exam into Intro to Computers. And I said, you know what? I got to get out of here. This is my last semester of college. I cannot mess up my GPA messing around with this class I don't need. So I immediately got out my seat and walked up to the registrar's office and dropped that class. But then I did something that I thank myself for. I thank this version of myself for. I went back to the professor after dropping the class and said, I'm sorry. Before I left, I asked him, could I audit the class and still come, but just don't get a grade for it so I can learn more about computers. And he allowed me to do it.
Computers, but not in the grade that you got in that class.
Right, because I failed the first exam, and I was like, oh, man, I failed this class. This is going to mess up my GPA. So I was like, oh, man, let me go to him and ask him, can I still drop the class as far as a real grade? Can I audit it? He said, yeah. So I went straight to the registrar's office and got it changed to an audited class where I can just go attend the class and learn, but I wasn't gonna get a grade for it. And that's what I did. So I can learn about the computer, learn about the internet and things that I heard was coming about. So that's my story about how I got into computers my senior year of college in 1994. How did you get into the internet, into computers, Ty? How did you get into learning more about it?
That's a great question. So ironically enough, I just scheduled out a post to go out on Facebook. And the post in it has a Commodore 64 computer, which was the first computer I had. And it has the AOL CD. Do you remember when we used to get like the CD, the AOL CDs in the mail so that we could get online? We can get on the internet, right? And I had a dial-up modem. And I actually used to collect those CDs, man. For some reason, and I can't remember how they actually operated at the time, but I think what AOL would do is they would give you hours, a certain number of hours, and you can get like bonus hours, and that was part of the promotion. But I didn't lose you, did I, Barry?
No. I just soloed you out, so you can solo you out.
Gotcha. All right. So at that time, look, I had my first daughter in 1998. Right. So thinking about this, and I didn't graduate high school until 1992. I actually was supposed to graduate in 91, but I ended up staying back. So graduated in 92. I had this Commodore 64 in elementary school.
Wow.
So my father, now I'm talking about how my mom would get $400, right? And state assistance and food stamps and things like that. My mom and my dad were separated. And I remember asking my father for this computer, and it was $595, which now I looked it up. In today's dollars, that would be the equivalent of just under $2,000.
That's right. That's right.
So a lot of money at that time. And this had to be, I can't remember when the Commodore 64 came out, but I want to say like the late 80s. And I'm a kid in elementary school, and you know, my father was a construction worker. He worked 3 jobs at any one time. Construction work was his main job. So he made significant money. And I remember the balls to ask him for this computer, $595.
Right.
And he ended up getting it for me.
Wow.
Now, we weren't spoiled children. Like I said, we didn't have money by any stretch of imagination. So now that I think about it, it's ironic because I was just thinking about how this played out earlier today. I've never thought about it before. But in actuality, Barry, that should not have happened. I should not have had $600
computer at that time.
Right. And at that time, being a young teenager, right? So here I am. I'm about 14, 15 years old. And when I wasn't sick, because I had I was also born with sickle cell anemia. So when I wasn't sick and in the hospital, or when I wasn't reading comic books, or when I wasn't at school, I spent every hour on this computer, this Commodore 64 computer, trying to figure things out.
Right.
Not knowing what I was figuring out, but trying to figure things out. And I think that sometimes we have these pivotal moments in our life where there's things that can take us in one direction if we allow it to, and then there's things that will take us in the other direction. So me growing up in Five Panic Village, worst housing project ever, I could have probably been one of the most notorious drug dealers.
Wow.
Right? Had I taken a left,
Wow. Yes, sir.
My friends
Yes,
were doing it at 16, 17, 14. You
right.
know, I had other family members. I'm not going to go into any names because I don't want
Right.
anyone to
Yeah.
feel
Yeah. Yeah. Please don't go into any names.
right. But they
Right.
were, so they had these roadmaps that I could have followed. But I said, you know what? This computer thing, I don't know what it's going to be about, but I know it's fun right now. And so there's a lot of people that are watching this right now, and especially youngsters that might be watching this. And there's a moment right now in your life where, based on the decisions that you make, and it may seem like a very small decision at the moment, that could be that fork in the road for you. That totally changed the direction of your life, right? That totally changes it. Now, I would have friends that would come by and they would call me a nerd and a geek. And what are you doing on a computer? Come on, let's go out here and let's do this and that and this, right?
Right.
And sometimes I would give into it, but less than that. So oftentimes, you know, we give into the temptations, and the temptations will end up not serving us in the way that we should be served, and in all of our glory that we deserve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's beautiful, Ty. And I'm gonna tell you how beautiful that is. But before I do that, I looked up the Commodore 64 computer, came up in 1982, my brother. It was introduced to the world in 1982. So I'm like, wow. So yes,
you know,
so
I probably had it in 84 because I was born in 72 and I was about 14 years old. And the reason why I remember that is because I had just started working at Walgreens Pharmacy as a summer program. Right, the summer programs back in Connecticut, we could start working at 14. And I remember having the disk drive came out a little bit later, and I ended up using my own money from my job to buy the disk drive, and I felt so good, even though it took me forever to save up.
Right.
Wow. That's it.
No, that's beautiful, Ty, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because when you start talking about like parents today, and I know if you've experienced this, you have children. When we start talking about our parents sacrificing, or I call it priority management, where, okay, I have this certain amount of money.
Right.
Am I going to go buy my kids $300 pair of tennis shoes? Or I'm going to go buy them something that they can actually utilize educationally or work-wise to generate income from? What investment am I going to make? Because we all know those, for a young person, especially if they're still growing, well, they're only going to wear them tennis shoes for a certain amount of time. Right. And they can get worn out. Right. But now if I buy this computer, or I buy this calculator, or I buy this software, now I'm investing in their future. And I've seen so many parents choose to make the other kind of investment, which is a priority for them, which is, hey, if that's your priority, that's your priority. I get it. However, look at what you said. You had the foresight as a young person, as a youth, to ask your dad for a computer of all things back then.
Foolishly, and asking him too. At $600.
Say that again.
I said,
yeah, that's a lot of money.
Because so you got to have some big ones at 14 to say, hey, Dad, right? And my dad was a mean joker at that time. So you ask him the wrong questions, and you know.
Exactly. So that what I'm saying, like, you had to, it was something in you, but you made a decision. And then your dad thought enough about you to say, hey, you know what? My son is asking me this for a reason. He didn't ask me for any BS. He asked me this for something positive and productive. So I'm going to go ahead and suck it up, and I'm going to go ahead and take care of that for him. And look what it has turned into this day and age. And anytime somebody brings up decision making, I think about a pivotal moment when I was reading Bill Clinton's book. It's right behind me on this shelf, of My Life. You remember when Bill Clinton wrote that book, My Life?
Yeah, as you were coming in, I was up there trying to look at all the titles because, you know.
Yes, sir. There you go. Yes, sir. When there's a moment in that book, Ty, where he says he had to make a decision about going to become a partner in a big time law firm in Arkansas versus running for governor of Arkansas. He had to make a decision because, you know, he's going to go make some good money over here in this law firm.
Yep.
On the other hand, he had the opportunity to become the governor of Arkansas. Now, that's not a guarantee because you got to campaign. You got to put in some major work to become an elected official at any level.
Yeah.
His decision to say no to the law firm and go become and yes to running for governor, he says it's the only reason I became president. Because I go to the law firm, I'd never become president of the United States ever.
Not at all.
And so
no one knows you.
So nobody knows you. So the lesson I learned from that, and from what he actually stated, he said, we have to learn how to say no. When we say no to certain things, now we're opening up the door for something else. And that goes back to your thing about the fork in the road, these decisions we make. So, hey, young student athletes, hey, young people in general, hey, adults in general. When it comes time and you get to that fork in the road, you're going to have to make a decision. And all I'm asking you is to think about that decision and choose wisely. That's all I'm going to say to you today, because the no is as powerful as the yes.
It is.
That's it.
And you know, Barry, I like to even add on to that, because it's like everything that you're saying yes to, you're also saying no to something else.
Absolutely.
If you have a goal of becoming one of the best quarterbacks, right? And you have, that's your goal, like that's your ultimate goal, is to become one of the best quarterbacks, whether it's for your high school, college, you want to play in the NFL, right? There's certain things that you're going to have to say yes to. Correct. But you're going to have to say no to more things than what you'll have to say yes to. And everything that you actually say yes to that does not push you in this direction where you want to go, right? You're kind of opening the door to all of these things that push you away from it. So I had to get really good at that, right? So growing up in the environment, you have friends that would smoke marijuana, right? Would drink. I had to get really good and confident in saying no. Absolutely. And even taking it to the next level. No, you cannot drink in my car.
How about that? Yes, sir.
When I got my own vehicle. No, you cannot smoke in my car, because even though I don't smoke, I don't know what can happen by me just inhaling, right? Absolutely. I don't want the smell to get on my clothes, and now I go home and my mother thinks that I've created this identity that I haven't created, right? So all the things, like, we have to get really, there's a great book out there, and I think the title is Say Yes to No.
Ooh,
right?
I like
Say
it.
Yes to No. And the premise of that is, the more yeses to no's that you get good at saying, right? The more easier it gets to say no. And then the easier you start to see those areas where you should say yes, right? It's like, okay, what do I eat? Do I eat the Snickers bar because it tastes good, right? It's going to give me that endorphin rush. It's going to, you know, as they say, if I believe the marketing, it's going to cure my craving. Or do I stay away from it and I go in and I eat the thing that's going to fuel me with the protein, right? That's a little bit more natural, right? Now, initially, that's going to be a tough decision to make.
That's right.
But the more you get to a point where you say no and yes, the easier it gets, right? And what you'll see is the way that you do anything is the way that you do everything. So now it gets easier to say no to going out on the weekend. It gets easier to say no to maybe skipping class. It gets easier to say no to maybe not showing up on time for practice. And now this becomes your character. This becomes your identity. Your identity becomes the person that is 100% focused on this thing, that you become the Kobe Bryant, right? Kobe's identity was being 100% focused.
Absolutely.
You
Black
look
Mamba.
at
Absolutely.
100%. You look at Jordan. His identity was being 100% focused, right? You look at anyone that you think is a great athlete, you know, Tiger Woods. At his prime, his identity was being 100% focused. You could not tell Tiger Woods that he was someone that was unfocused. You couldn't even tell someone who knew the name Tiger Woods. You couldn't say, "Oh, that guy's not focused."
Right. That's true.
Right.
That's true.
So
That's true.
we have to do these things that are in alignment with our identity that we want to create. And the more that you do that, the easier it becomes to walk in those shoes. And what gets even better is now people recognize you as that identity that you've chosen to take on. And now that solidifies your decision and all of these things make it easier and easier and easier. Right? Because at first, it's like starting a business, baby. Look, at first, when you're starting a business, the number one champion, the number one believer, the number one individual that's going to be behind you is you.
It's you. Absolutely. You got to believe first. Absolutely.
It's going to be you. Absolutely. Your mom gonna love you. Your dad's going to love you, right? Your friends, they're there for you. But there's been plenty of times when I've told people about a business idea and you get that look.
That's right. Oh, you're going to get that look. You definitely going to get that look initially. There's no doubt about it. Absolutely.
You get that look, right? And then now just that, if you're not mentally strong and you don't believe in this identity that you're going to create, that's going to be your future, just the look alone could deter you. It's just like back in the day, growing up, your mom would give you that look. And you were about to do something, she gives you that look. And that's going to deter you.
Absolutely.
Right? So, absolutely. Yeah, it's, we were talking about this stuff earlier, and there's so many different similarities between being a great athlete and a great entrepreneur. But we can get into that later if you want.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you headed in a good direction, because the next thing I was gonna, prior to us going live, I know we were talking, so we definitely gonna delve more into that. But so let me say this: say yes to no. That's the book. Young people, parents, coaches, say yes to no. That's the book you got to go check out. All right. So now, Ty, did you play any sport? Now, I know you say you was in an environment, you know what I'm saying, that may not have been too friendly. You're not just out there unless you was, up there in Cohen Island shooting ball or something like that, and getting with the greats of New York basketball. But did you play sports as a youth? And if you did, what sports did you play?
You know what? So you're gonna get a kick out of this. So when I was growing up, growing up in Connecticut, I loved hockey. I loved watching hockey. I loved watching hockey. I loved the aggressiveness of it. I loved just everything about it. I thought that the uniforms were incredible, but there wasn't anyone that looked like us that played hockey at that time.
Right.
There was, they were sparingly shown, right? If anything.
Right.
So the only sport that I did play, and before I get to this, the reason why I didn't play sports, right, was because coming up with sickle cell anemia, any type of overexertion could potentially cause you to be in a hospital for weeks, right? So there's times when I would play. I would play basketball. I'm trying to play football, and then that would end up causing me to be in a hospital. So I quickly gave up on sports. The one sport that I did try was soccer. So I went out, right, and I'm in sixth grade. It's in Connecticut. It's cold. It's probably about March or April, and it's still freezing out there. This is our first day of practice, Barry. I'm out there. I'm on the field. We're going. I'm goalie right over here. One of the kids, he comes. He's kicking the ball. I go in to kind of, stop him. And the ball comes in. And it not only hits my hand, but it bends my nails back.
Ooh, that's painful, brother.
It's painful alone, but it's painful, even more painful when it's cold outside. Right. So have you ever gotten hit and it's painful outside? So getting hit alone is bad, but when it's cold outside, So I immediately, man, I walked off the field. I probably said some curse words that a little kid shouldn't be saying, and I said, "This is it." So that was my one try at sports there. Now look, having 4 kids, so all of my kids are into sports or were into sports: baseball, football, track, cheer, stunt. Ice skating, everything. And what I learned by looking at them is that, I really wish that I would have gotten involved with sports, because I think that it's one of the best setups for the discipline that we need as adults.
Absolutely.
Right? It's the absolute best setup that a young person could get in terms of understanding themselves, understanding what's possible as you, the individual, understanding what's possible when you learn to work with your team. Right?
Yes.
All these skill sets that we need as we go on to adulthood, right? Being able to have confidence in yourself to take that shot when you might be, doubting yourself if you should take it. When other people around you are like, oh my God, he's always hogging the ball. He's going to try to take it. But now having that discipline, right, to be able to be insightful enough to say, maybe I should take this shot, or maybe I should pass it to my teammate.
Yeah.
Right. Being open enough to going in and trying different things. I think one of the most admirable individuals is someone that goes and they try different things, even though they don't know if it's trying to work out for them. My son Tyler, who all his life played football and basketball primarily, one day he comes to me and he says, Dad, I want to try out for the baseball team.
Right.
And I had been trying to get him to play baseball for 2 years. And he would always say, no. So this day he comes and he says, Dad, I want to try out for the baseball team. So my question to him was, what's her name? Right? Why all of a sudden now you want to play baseball? Right? What girl said that she loves baseball? He's in like the 7th grade at this time. Right? He's like, no, Dad, I want to try it. Right. So I think that being able to go out and try different things, is what's needed here, because so many of us, we get afraid of trying. We get afraid of going outside of our comfort zone. So never played sports, but my children playing sports gave me a huge appreciation for anyone that's an athlete and everything that goes into being an athlete.
Absolutely. Well, you just put all the values that come with being a student athlete and the value of playing sports. It develops certain skills in you. The discipline, number one and foremost, you're going to get some kind of discipline when you play sports, and you're going to learn how to be on a schedule, because you gotta get to practice on time and participate on practice and get to the games on time so you can participate in the games properly. So all those things put together, sports, and then you talked about teamwork. About learning how to work with a team is very, very important. And sports does a great job of teaching our young people how to work in a team atmosphere to achieve a common goal. So I love that, man. And you brought up sickle cell. Well, listen, if you heard what Mr. Cohen just said about sickle cell anemia, yes, I have a niece. Shout out to Jayla. Jayla, she lives with sickle cell as well, man. And she's been in and out of the hospital her whole entire life. But that young lady, when you talk about resilience and perseverance, Ty, and you sent me some information to give to her dad, which I tremendously appreciate that, brother. And that shows what kind of person you are. But that young lady has become a nurse. She graduated from Georgia State, then went on to nursing school, man. And that young lady is a nurse right now, working as a pediatric nurse, man. So she's giving back to the kids, just like all those people gave her love when she was in and out of the hospital as a young person, man. So shout out to you, Ty, living with sickle cell and still achieving and working hard. So because of those things, because of seeing you, knowing you, because of seeing my niece, knowing her, hey man, I've developed this thing called no excuses. You know what I'm saying? No excuses. Because if my brother Ty can be in and out of the hospital and become this amazing businessman, this amazing digital publisher, internationally renowned digital publisher, if my niece can work through missing school, missing other things because she's in the hospital and not feeling well, and still graduate from college, shout out to Georgia State, and still graduate from nursing school, her nursing program, and become a pediatric nurse, hey man, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And that same focus Ty talked about with Tiger Woods, this the kind of training Tiger got. And I know you saw this, Ty. in his story, his dad used to stand beside him with a flare gun or some kind of starter gun. I think the starter gun they used in track. And he would keep the gun out while he's playing golf.
Wow.
To keep him focused.
To test his focus, right? His oneness.
Exactly, to test his focus. So, young people, when you say you want to, first you have to make a decision to say, hey, I want to become who I want to become. Be it a professional athlete, be it a digital publisher, be it an inspirational, motivational speaker, whoever it is, whatever you want to become, you're going to have to make a decision first. And then you're going to have to develop and work on the focus and the discipline to become who you say you want to become. I love it, Ty. Thank you, brother. That's beautiful. Now, with that being said, now a lot of student athletes, like you said before we started going live, they want to be entrepreneurs. Matter of fact, a lot of them develop the qualities to be a great entrepreneur.
They do.
What qualities do you believe student athletes possess that make them successful entrepreneurs?
You know, there's several of them, baby, and it's having the discipline, right? And I think that one of the biggest ones is knowing that the things that you have to do in order to get here are part of the process, right? So going back to my son Tyler, he loved playing football, loved playing football. Didn't love going to practice as much.
Right.
Loved, right? So he, they would practice, or they would work out, I should say. That's the part that he didn't like, right? So during practice, he loved to practice, right? He loved huddling up and playing and everything else. But before that, they're working out and they're doing everything else right before they start actually playing the game. And this is him at 7, because we started him at 5. This is him at 8. This is him at 12. This is him at 12, 13, right? He loved playing the actual game, but it wasn't like the working out that he enjoyed. As a matter of fact, he hated the working out so much that just times when my wife and I, we would go on vacation, and my mom or my mother-in-law would watch the kids. They would come by and they would watch the kids. So he got so good at 10 or 11 years old, asking my mom to take him to practice, or saying, you know what, I don't have to be to practice until 6:30.
Oh wow!
Because he knew that by 6:30, them working out and everything, they'd be done.
Yeah, they'd be
actually playing the game, right? So we would get home from vacation, and my mom would be like, I didn't realize that Tyler's practice hours shifted, from 6 to 6:30. And I'm like, no, that joker, he's supposed to be there. He was trying to get out of, working out. But look, anyone that has that discipline to do the things that you don't want to do, even though you should be doing it, is someone that has a better chance at being successful with it. Because entrepreneurship is the same way, right? You're gonna do the monotonous things, you're gonna do the routine things, you're gonna do the boring things. The entrepreneurs that can get past doing the most boring things, and they're doing it with excitement, they're doing it with grace, they're doing it with love, right? Even if they don't love it, you wouldn't be able to tell that they don't love it, because they're putting that much passion and effort into it. Right?
Absolutely.
The football players that are actually practicing, the Kobe Bryant, who after he wins a championship, he's still in there practicing as if he really enjoys practicing, but deep down inside may not really enjoy it and would probably prefer to be with his family, be with his kids, right? The entrepreneurs that can do that can do the repetitive stuff, that can do, the things that they don't want to do, but they know that it's part of that process. Those are the individuals that are more likely going to be succeeding than not, right? It's always like to look at, if you look at some of the singers and musicians that are out there, who's one of your favorite artists? One of your favorite?
Hey man, I'm a New Edition fan.
Okay.
LL Cool J. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
Okay.
Candy Rain.
Yeah.
Now they've been singing that song. Those guys are 40, 50 or so.
They're in their 50s. Yeah, all of them in their 50s as well.
All of them are in their 50s. They've been singing Candy Rain and Mr. Telephone Man since they were young teenagers.
Kids. Yeah, teenagers. Yeah, 13,
14,
14.
15. years old, right? Now they got other songs. They have newer songs that you and I have never even heard, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got stuff that they've written and that they would love to go out on stage and perform. But it's the boring stuff. To them, by this time, they've sung it probably tens of thousands of times. It's the boring stuff that they know that their audience wants to hear, right? So it's that boring, repetitive work that gets you to the next level. And I think that that's why athletes, and in particular student athletes, because you guys are still younger and your children are younger, they have the ability to develop that muscle that's going to allow them to continue doing that boring work that takes them to the next level. Right? It's not new. Like if someone ever comes to you and they say, "Hey, look, baby, I got some new antiques I want to sell you." Right? I don't have antiques, but I got new antiques I want to sell you.
New antique. That's the key word, right? New okay.
Antique. You gotta look at them like, okay, well, I was born at night, but not last night.
Not last night.
Right? Exactly. There's no new antiques, right? So it's in doing those things that will continue to build that muscle, even when it looks like the muscle has already been built out, so that it doesn't atrophy, right? So I think it's that. It is, as we said, the discipline. It's understanding that there's no oneness in anything. In order to be successful at entrepreneurship, sometimes you have to have a team, right? Because we think that we could do the things that no one else can do as well as we could. But sometimes if we just simply look, there's people that can do it much better than we could, and they love doing it as well, right? When I first got started with entrepreneurship, one of my weak traits, the things that I was not good at, was customer support, answering emails, returning phone numbers, right? Answering support tickets. And because of that, my early business suffered because I didn't want to answer customer support responses. I ended up hiring a lady at that time for like $7 an hour who loved dealing with customer support.
Right.
Loved it. And I'm looking at her strange, right? Like, who loves it? And she's loving it. And not only does she love doing it, but she's getting paid. So it's a win-win for her. And then it's a win for me because I don't have to do it. And then the customers are benefiting from it, right? So I think that the student athletes that understand that the power of a team is always going to be to their benefit. The individuals that know when they should do something on their own or when there's someone else that's better. Yes, I want to go in and I want to dribble a ball all the way up court. But my teammate over here, he might be a little bit better than me at dribbling. And he's not going to screw the ball up and he's probably going to make the shot, right? So knowing that I should pass it.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, all of these things, they come into play, when it comes to being someone that can transition from being a student athlete and then take that skill set and realize that it's transferable when it comes to being an entrepreneur.
Man, you just dropped some jewels. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ty Cohen just dropped some jewels that I hope you paid attention to. Repetition, the daily tasks, the mundane things that we all have to do to keep our businesses going properly. Those are the same skills our student athletes have to use as well. Getting up on the morning in time, getting to the bus stop on time, getting to school on time, getting to the class on time, not hanging in the hallway past the 5 or 7 minutes you get in between classes because you want to holler at that young man or you want to holler at that young lady. Hey, get to class. All these things help you, those small daily things that we do. We call them habits, everybody. They're called habits. And once you develop great habits, those great habits can take you to the top of the mountain. I promise you. They can take you to the top of the mountain if you develop the positive habits. And I'm talking about small ones, like we just mentioned, like Mr. Cohen just mentioned.
Very small.
So if you're willing to do that, on a daily basis, I have this saying, Ty, I say, hey, being consistently good, doing the things that you know you're supposed to do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And being slightly above average. You ain't got to be the greatest. You can just be slightly above average. But you're doing this all the time. Man, you'll go to the Hall of Fame.
Just a little bit, right?
Yeah, this the proof of it, Ty. This the proof of it right here. You ready? You ready?
Hey,
it shocked me. It shocked me when one of my partners mentioned his name. I couldn't believe it. We got into a big argument and everything. He said, hey, man, Frank Gore is the best. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I said, Frank Gore? Are you crazy?
Right.
Who is Frank? I mean, I knew who he was. I follow football.
Right.
But I'm like, Frank Gore, man, you crazy.
Right.
I said, no, bro. He the third all-time leading rusher. I said, there's no way he the third all-time leading rusher. There's no way.
Right.
Man, we went and looked that up, Ty. I couldn't even believe it. Look it up right now. This dude is the third all-time leading rusher. And I think he only dominated. Well, he only had 1 year of domination. I think he ran for 1,700 yards 1 year. But he was consistently running for 900, 1,000, 950. And then as he got later on in his career, he was only running for like 600 some yards. But he did it for so long that he ends up being third on the all-time rushing list. So he's absolutely going to go to the Hall of Fame one day. He might not be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but if you're third on the all-time leading rushing list, most likely you going to the Hall of Fame.
Most likely,
I couldn't believe it. Yep. I couldn't even believe it, Ty.
You know what it is, babe? It's the consistency, right? It's people will look and they'll say, hey, well, Ty, look, I want to do this and I want to do this, or I want to start a digital publishing business. But I'm terrible at doing it right now. And I said, the reason why you're terrible at doing it is because you haven't started yet. Or if you have started doing it, right, you haven't been consistent at doing it. So your example, I mean, that's a perfect example right there, is the consistency. Everything that we are terrible at doing right now, we're consistent with doing it every single day. And we totally submerge ourselves into doing this. We have no choice but to get better at it. The baby that's crawling around and they're pulling themselves up, trying to walk, they're pulling themselves up on the table, this, that, and they're using the dresser drawer to try to put. If they keep that up, they have no choice but to turn into this adult that now not only can walk without even thinking about it, but could run, that can jog, that can get on a treadmill, right? That can do all of these things. But the baby that says, you know what, I'm going to try this thing and I'm going to try it. Maybe I'll give it 6 weeks. And if I'm not walking by 6 weeks, I'm done. I'm going to crawl for the rest of my life. Like, how crazy? Think about that. How crazy does that sound? Right? But that's what happens to us. So a lot of times we'll go in and we'll say, I want to do this thing because I want more time. I want more freedom. I want to spend, quality time with my wife or my husband, or I want to watch my kids grow up. And then we do it momentarily.
Correct.
We do it until it doesn't feel good anymore.
Definitely been guilty of that.
I'm talking to myself right now because I'm going to watch this back as a reminder next time I feel like not doing something. Look, I have a sticky note right here because I have to remind myself of this stuff. This sticky note that I have says, I will do what is required, not what I want or feel like, right? I will do what is required, not what I want or feel like. I don't know if you guys can see that, right?
Wow.
I will do not what I want, but what is required, not what is required, not what I want or feel like. Because there's moments where you get up in the morning. Look, I went to the gym this morning. It took me 20 minutes longer to get out of the house because my mind said, I don't need to go to the gym today.
Right.
You went Tuesday, you went Friday. God says on this day you should rest. I mean, I'm getting real spiritual this morning because I didn't want
just because you didn't want to go walk.
Just because I didn't want to go to the gym.
Right.
But the thing is, when we start to recognize those things, our mind can play tricks on us for the good or bad. And you have to start playing tricks back with it. When your mind starts to talk to you, sometimes you talk back to it. You don't need to go to the gym this morning. You went Wednesday, you went Thursday, you went Friday. And now talk back to it. Well, look, I know that you're trying to have me give myself a break, but I'm going to the gym this morning. Now you got to talk back to it. The thing is, just make sure that you're not talking back to it in a crowd of people, because then people got to think you're going.
Right. They don't think you're crazy. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Positive self-talk, Ty. Positive self-talk, positive affirmations Hey man, it's
Yeah.
critical, brother. I love it.
It's,
I love it.
it's beyond critical, right? It's beyond critical. So, who better to talk to than yourself,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Who better to talk to than yourself, and in a positive sense? Have you ever listened to your voice, Barry? Like, have you ever
Mhm.
listened to a recording, or if you listen to like this video, and then you're like, oh my God,
Mhm.
like I don't like the way my voice sounds, or my voice doesn't. I don't picture myself sounding like that. Have you ever had that?
Man, I all the time. Because I don't like looking back at these videos. I really don't. I
Yep.
have to look at them because as a sports background, I learned that hey, I have to look at film of myself doing what I do now as an inspirational, motivational speaker, holding these student athlete playbook video conversations. I have to look back at them so I can improve because that's what I was taught in football when I started learning about film study. You watching the film of yourself in the last game so you can make the adjustments to get better for the next game. So you don't keep
Right.
making those same mistakes. So yes, I do not like looking at these videos and listening to my voice,
Yeah.
but I have to if I want to get better for the future and make improvement so I can have
Mm.
people like yourself want to come on the show when y'all see these videos. Because if you're on here and you're not speaking very well, then that could turn somebody off. And I got one of the biggest compliments the other night, Ty, this past Friday night. Shout out to Coach McCullers, the legendary all-time winningest basketball coach in the state of Georgia. He coached
Oh,
at our
wow.
high school, won like 800 some games, man. 4 state titles at our school, produced 4 Miss Georgia basketballs. Just amazing thing, right? And they named the gym our school. They built a new school, and so they named the gymnasium the new gym after him. So beautiful thing.
Oh,
So
that's
shout
an
out to
honor.
Coach McCullers
Yeah.
and all the big time players and that came through that program. And one of the big time players that I've stayed in contact with over the years, she pulled me to the side the other night and was like, Bear, I've been watching you, checking your stuff. Cause she's a coach and a teacher now herself, an educator. So shout out to all the educators out there. At times she told me, she said, Bear, when you talk and you speak, I see your videos and stuff, you sound like a pastor.
Oh, wow. That's a
I
compliment,
say,
though.
yeah, exactly. It's a tremendous compliment. And
Yeah.
I said, you know why? I said, first of all, I said, thank you. And, put a smile on my face. But it's because of emulation. It's because of studying and things. On my wall right now, I look up, I have a picture of Nelson Mandela,
Mm-hmm.
Barack Obama, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X. Right in front of me. I put it in front of my desk on purpose. So I can look up and see these great men, these great orators that I can emulate. And that's the only reason I probably speak the way I speak, because I've studied their speeches. I've read their books and things of that nature, and and looked at all their quotes and stuff. And so that's why I speak the way I speak. So student athlete, you heard from Mr. Ty Cohen. I'm talking about a very, very successful. I'm talking about internationally known, internationally renowned. Hey, gets paid internationally. and,
Paid international, yeah. Yep, there you go.
and
I
when he
like it.
start and when he starts talking about these things that we need to do to become who we say we want to become, then we need to take it to heart. So you just learn the qualities needed as a student athlete are the exact same qualities that transfer to being an entrepreneur. So I'm gonna use the Nike slogan right now, Ty. Young people, coaches, parents alike, yo, just do it.
There you
Just
go.
get started. And once you get started, now you're on a path to success. Even with all the mistakes we're gonna make, we're on a path to success because we got started. Ty, man,
Because
thank you for that, brother. That's
you
that's
made it.
that's
You made a
awesome, man.
decision. I want
Yes.
to even take it back to something that you said, Barry, because I don't want anyone
Go ahead.
to
Yes, sir.
miss the importance of it, and that is making the decision. So
Mhm.
you said, it starts with making the decision. One of the things that got me started with entrepreneurship, I started when I was probably about 18 years old. And that was, I just needed to make a decision. And the decision wasn't based around me, it was a decision from my mother. I needed to
yes.
find a way to move my mom out of that environment that we had grown up in. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't even know that it was going to be possible for someone that looked like me at that age, because I didn't have any role models that were entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
I didn't know that entrepreneurship was going to be the way. Right now, you see other people that are doing other things, but those things could be temporarily, right? It could be temporarily, and meaning that it leads to incarceration or it leads to them losing their life. So I knew that that
Oh
wasn't the
yeah.
route that I wanted to take at all. So I'm like,
No, sir.
right, not at all. That wasn't even an option. So it had to be something else. So it starts with what you said, making that decision. You don't even have to know how it's going to work out, but the starting point is, look, I want to go in and I'm going to, whatever it might be, I want to plant corn. My decision is to plant corn. That's where you start first, right? And I'm just using that as an analogy. Once you make that decision, what happens is now you know the next step. What's the next step? If you make a decision, hey, I want to plant corn. Well, you need to come up with some seeds, right?
That's right.
That's the next thing, right? So
I love it.
I need to come up with some seeds. And then you get to the next step. Well, how am I going to get seeds? Maybe I need to go to the store and grab some, right? Maybe I need to barter. Maybe I can ask to borrow some from my neighbor or someone, right? However,
Absolutely.
you just know that you need to get seeds. Then the next step is, now I need to plant these seeds, right? So now what happens is you start to think about these steps, and that's all you need. You just need one step at a time. And I think a lot of people overcomplicate things because they're thinking about the whole big picture. And they're thinking about all of the different steps. And it's easy to become overwhelmed when you're thinking about all of the different steps, except for one step at a time. First step is making the decision. The decision is, I want to go and plant corn. The decision may be, I want to make the football team. The decision may be, I want to become, right, the world's most renowned quarterback. The decision may be, I want to start a business. The decision may be, I want to become the next Kai Cenat, right? The decision may be, whatever it may be.
Right.
But if you don't take a moment to yourself and make that decision, then nothing else happens after that. And then it's getting better at making the decision to do the next thing that comes in line. And it's one step at a time. I want to become the next Kai Cenat. Okay, well, what do I need to do next? Well, I might need to start to study people who are at his level or better. I might need to really go in and understand, what's better than Kai Cenat. Who did he learn from? Who was his mentor? Because everyone learned from someone.
Right. That's true.
Who did he learn from, and how did he get to a point where he's at now? And then realizing that whoever's at this point that they're at right now, their greatest point of greatness, they didn't start at that level. They started just like me, an individual coming out of a womb. We all had the same starting point, right?
Right.
Some of us may have had some advantages. Some of us may have had some disadvantages. But even with our disadvantages, look, I think that if I had never been born with sickle cell anemia, I think that if I had never been raised in Five Panic Village, you probably would not see the Ty Cohen that you see here, because those obstacles, disadvantages helped me to build my character. And it gave me it gave me this contrast, the yin and yang of what I want and what I don't want. So sometimes it's just making that decision and then deciding along with that decision, what do I want? If I'm going to be the next, whoever your favorite athlete is, if I'm going to be the next, who's your favorite athlete?
My favorite athlete of all time would have to be probably Deion Sanders.
If I want to be the next Deion, right? If I want to be the next, what does that look like? What does that look like for me? And then Deion didn't wake up saying, I'm Deion, I'm primetime.
That's right. He did not.
He went in, and there's people that he looked up to. He had mentors. So all of the greats had mentors that were great to them, who also had mentors that were great to them, who also had mentors who were great to them. So the people that are the best at the best of everything, they realize that, and they go back and they study the people that they're emulating.
Absolutely.
They study those people who they study. And then they're looking ahead as well. right? And then they're being a little bit competitive, right? I want to be better than Dion. So where did he mess up at? Where could he have improved at? Right. So it's continuously going in and doing these checks and balances so that you can look at yourself. And as you said, you go back and you play the tape. Sometimes at the end of the night, I'm going back and I'm playing the tape in my head. And I'm like, okay, well,
Absolutely.
where could I have been better in business? Where could I have been better as a husband? Where could I have been better as a brother to my siblings? Where could I have? So sometimes we have to look at and we review at the end of our day. Where could I have been better as a student?
I love it. I love it.
What could I have been better as an athlete? What could I have been better as a son to my mom, my dad? What could I have been better as a daughter to my grandmother, to my mom, my dad, right? To my neighbor, to my coach, to my principal. And then as you start to do that, you start to refine who you are and you become a better individual because now you're more conscious of all these different areas that you could be better at. And when you start to get better at all of these little areas, it creates this David, this statue that is just incredible, right? Because it's not just being good just on the field. It's not just being good in the gym, right? It's being good in as many areas as you possibly can, because then you start to become super aware of all the other areas that you can continuously improve on.
Boy. Well, you just dropped some jewels, Ty. Be as good as you can be in every area of your life.
Which creates pressure, right? It could create pressure. But what do they say? Pressure creates diamonds.
It busts pipes. Yeah. Oh, well, it busts pipes too, but it definitely creates diamonds.
Right. So it goes both ways. You know? So
you just dropped the jewels, brother.
It goes both ways. Do we want these things or do we not want them? And whatever it might be. My son, you know, he is a great B student. A great B student. He's like, Dad, I don't know if I can get an A. I don't know if I can get an A, Dad. And I'm like, no, you could get an A.
Yeah, you absolutely can.
It's gonna take you saying no to some things. Put the video game down a little bit more.
Right.
I'm being honest with him, right? It's gonna take you saying no to a few things. It might take you saying no to maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour more worth of sleep. So you can get up a little bit earlier. So you can stay up a little bit later, study. Right? It may take saying no to, sometimes me and my son will watch the game. Steelers playing Cowboys today.
That's right.
It may take us saying no to a game sometimes.
Absolutely. Done it plenty of times. I know you've done it plenty of times, Ty. Absolutely. You want to do something so bad, and man, you like, man, I gotta miss this because I have to go do this.
Gotta go do this. Right? Look, I've had to tell my wife and my kids sometimes, look, Dad needs an hour. Especially when I was first coming up. Look, please give me this 2 hours uninterrupted. I promise you I'm working on something that's going to benefit the entire family.
Absolutely. That's that priority management I'm talking about, Ty. That student athletes have to have, us as parents have to have, us as business entrepreneurs have to have. Priority management. I love it. Go ahead, brother. I just had to get that in there.
No, that's it. No, we're good. Yep. Yes, but it goes back. All of this goes back to making the decision and then saying no to certain things and then yes to certain things, right? Because you know, there's everything that we do in life either does one of three things to us. One of three things. And then when I'm trying to make decisions and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, which of these buckets is this decision going to fit in? And it could be my decision about drinking chair wine, which I love, right? The South.
Yeah, I love chair wine too. Yes, sir. So when we connect, we gotta do that by far. Yes, sir. But go ahead, my brother.
Right. Y'all jokers put me up on chair wine. We didn't have that in Connecticut. So it could be, you know, and I'm being a little foolish, but drinking chair wine, right? So it's gonna be, it's either going to push me back. Every decision that we make is either going to push us back away from the thing we want. It's going to push us towards the thing we want, or it's not going to have any effect. So you have to think about that, right? So now, if I don't go in and I don't study an extra hour, you could be the most brilliant student athlete ever.
Right.
But in reality, if you don't study an extra hour, what is it going to do? It may not do anything for you because you're already brilliant in yourself. But if you're totally honest, it may push you back a bit because there's another kid somewhere that you don't even know that is studying an hour.
Absolutely.
2 hours maybe. Or if you do go and you study that extra hour, it's probably pushing you towards that goal that you want to get to. So every single decision, as many as that we can think of and that we're conscious of, which of those 3 buckets does it fall into? And then it helps us to learn how to make better decisions. Right? So.
Man, that's, hey man, you drop dimes, student athletes, parents, coaches, youth service providers. Listen, Ty Cohen just dropped some major jewels for all of us. He even admitted for himself to go back and look at.
Absolutely.
And what I got from that, we talked about having mentors. Mentors is one of the most beautiful things you could ever have, because if you have a mentor, they're 9 times out of 10 are going to keep you from making a mistake that they made earlier that you don't have to make. That's the value of a mentor. Then, Ty, you mentioned, I wrote it down as taking it one step at a time, but also reflection.
Yep.
We have to sit back at some point in time. And I say we need to do it regularly. Reflect on what we're doing. Reflect on our habits. Reflect on how we're treating people. Reflect on how we're treating our wives, our husbands, our children, our teachers, our coaches. Reflect on how you're treating the people you say you care about. We have to reflect on that.
And either you reflect with the intention of getting better, or you reflect with regret. It's got to be either one. It's got to be either one, right? You get to be 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. Now you can do some reflection. And if you haven't reflected with intent often enough, you could be reflecting with regret. I wish I would have, right? So think about it. I would, man, how many look, the other day yesterday we went to UNC Charlotte's football game, right? College. It was UNC Charlotte versus ECU, and they blew them out. And I like to feel like they blew them out because I was there. I gave them some positive energy.
But we got a kid. We got a kid at East Carolina, man. Shout out to Dwight Johnson Jr. Yeah, y'all took a big loss yesterday, but we still love you, DJ. We still love you. But go ahead, Ty.
Hey man, it was good. It was good blowing you out because UNC, they needed it. You know they needed it, right? So but look, I'm there and I go and I get this beef hot dog, Barry. Now I know I shouldn't have the beef hot dog. I should have went and got the set. Right? I should have did which of these buckets is this decision gotta put me in? That's what I should have did.
Right.
I go and I get the beef hot dog. Not only do I get the beef hot dog, but I put chili on it. I put raw onions on it. I put peppers on it.
Okay. You did it up.
I did it up. I go back to my seat. I'm eating the hot dog. I'm enjoying it. 20 minutes later, my stomach starts to act full. Now I'm reflecting with regret.
That's right. That's a great analogy. Great story. Yes, sir.
I'm reflecting with regret, right? Because I could have reflected with intention, like, oh my God, Ty, I'm so proud of you because you went and got the salad. You wanted the hot dog. You could afford the hot dog. The hot dog was there, but you made the decision to get the salad. Now that's reflection with intent and satisfied intent as well, right? So it's one of the two, right? So here we go.
Wow. Hey man, I love it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're taking notes while you're watching this video. Definitely, you're gonna have a chance. Ty, at the end of our conversation, he's gonna give out his information to get in touch with him. But this is why he is Ty Cohen, no doubt. He is Ty Cohen, a internationally renowned internet marketer, because of what you just heard. Period. Enough said. Hey, so now Ty, Now we've talked. Now I know why. I don't even have to ask the question. We already know how you became who you became because you just told us. If you're doing all this stuff every day, then no doubt this is how you became the Ty Cohen that we know today. But let me ask you this, Ty. Is there anything else you want to say about personal development? Like, is there anything else you want to say about that, or you good right there as far as what you shared thus far?
You know what? What I would tell people is I would tell them to, you know, especially for students and I mean just anyone, it's the dream, right? It doesn't cost you anything to dream. It doesn't cost you anything to say this is who I want to help. This is who I want to become. This is what I want, right? And it's okay to be a little bit selfish with this stuff sometimes, right? Because sometimes when you're selfish and you say, well, maybe this is how much money I want to make, or this is what I want to get to as far as accomplishments in my career, accomplishments on the field, accomplishments as an athlete. You know, having those dreams helps you to get to a place where you now can help as many people as you possibly can help, right? And that's what it's all about. It's about getting to a point where you can help as many people as you possibly can, right? So I tell people that there's nothing wrong with dreaming. Don't share your dreams with people that are dream crashers. Don't share your dreams with people that may not see it possible for themselves, because if they don't see it possible for themselves, right, there's very little chance that they're going to see it as being possible for you, right? The other thing is question your dreams, because oftentimes when we're dreaming, we may not be dreaming big enough. And then we get there and we realize that we had the potential to do so much more than what we've actually done. Right? So question your dreams and question your potential, because all of us have the potential to do as much as we possibly want to and what we deserve to be able to do.
Question your dreams. I like that, Ty. I like Absolutely. That. Question your dreams, young people. From being a professional athlete to being a doctor, an attorney, a police officer, an engineer. I mean, whatever, a plumber, a contractor, construction contractor, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Question your dreams. Have a dream first and foremost, but question those dreams. I love it, Ty. I love it.
Question what you're capable of reaching, right? The levels, because look, almost everything that you've named, actually everything that you've named, and almost everything that someone can dream of becoming or accomplishing or having or doing, someone's already done. They've already laid the blueprint. So now it becomes progressively easier, right? As the years go by, if someone's already done it, if someone's already started a publishing business, it becomes easier for you to go in and start that publishing business, because now you have a roadmap and you use that roadmap, plus you add your own creativity. And then now you're able to go much further, right? So we see this all the time, right? We see this in entertainment. We see it in sports, right? We're still questioning if Kobe was a better player than Jordan or someone like that, right? You see it, right? So the groundwork has already been laid. You just go in, you make the decision, as we said earlier. You dream, you question your dream, you refine it, and then you just go for it. You just keep going, right? And that's it.
I love it, man. I love it, Ty. That's huge, brother. That's huge jewels you're dropping there. So now, I know you have the Kindle cash flow system.
Yep.
But what other products and services, Ty, do you provide? What else do you do as a speaker, as a internet marketer, as a digital publisher? What else do you do?
That's a good question. So we help people to kind of find out where their strong strengths are, right? And I say strong strengths because we all have strengths, right? We have strengths that might just be here. We have strengths that are here, but then we have strong strengths. And I think we have this set of strong strengths that will allow us to go and accomplish things, but also accomplish things that we enjoy doing. You see, so many people get into careers or they start businesses, and they're doing this because of one reason. It might be to make money, but then they're miserable at it, right? So we show people how to not only go in and start a business, but also start a business that is going to serve people, that's going to serve you, and that you're going to enjoy doing.
Right.
So
Right.
that's where, I ask people to really start, is to kind of, do this assessment as to who they are. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can just simply go to tycohen.com, tycohen.com, reach out to me. And if you're interested, I'll definitely help you, especially students, right? If you guys, regardless of, what age you are, if you're thinking about starting some type of an online business, which is my specialty, we also invest in a lot of real estate as well, Barry, but online marketing, I mean, it allows me to get to this point where we can take that digital real estate and turn it into physical real estate, right? So I invest the money that comes in from my digital real estate, and that is educational programs and training programs and coaching programs, subscription sites and memberships and Kindle publishing. Take that digital money and we put it into physical assets that create long-term generational wealth, and that continuously appreciate.
Yes.
Right? So that's it.
Woo.
So reach out to me. Again, tycohen.com. You can reach out to me on any social media platform by going to tycohen.com/social. You'll see my Instagram, my IG, my TikTok. You'll see my YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, anything that you're familiar with, any platform that you're most comfortable with reaching out to me. And look, I always tell people that there's no such thing as a dumb question. The only dumb question is the question that you might be thinking of asking, but you're afraid to ask, right? So other than that, come in and ask me any question, and I'll also give you my telephone number. So send me a text if you have any questions. Text me at area code 203. I still have my original Connecticut number. So 203-526-6031. That will ring to this cell phone right here. All right. 203-526-6031. Send me a text with any questions that you might have about business, about digital marketing, about entrepreneurship, about influencer marketing, about branding, business branding, personal branding, about list building, about anything, monetization. Reach out to me and we'll set up a time. We'll talk and we'll take it from there.
Man, because Ty, I know you got to go, because I know you got another meeting coming up real fast.
I got another call coming up in like 8 minutes.
Exactly. So let me just ask you this. Are you real quick, like, and you don't have to spend a lot of time, are you familiar with NIL deals, name, image, likeness, this phenomenon that's going on around college sports and even high school sports right now? Are you familiar with that? Can you speak briefly to that? And then we're going to sign off, brother. If you can speak just 1 minute on that or what have you, if you have something to say about it.
I personally think that's the best thing ever for athletes, right? Because look, we were talking about potential just now. And getting paid for your potential is one of the best things, right? Now, it also creates a little bit more competition. I think that competition is good, whether it's in sports or in business. I think they're both good because they bring out the best of us, right? So I think that the important thing for athletes to understand is to understand your worth and the value that you bring and all of the possibilities. Because just like Barry, we were talking about the music business, right? Where before with the music business, you were just getting paid off of a number of CDs or albums that you sold. And now it's streaming, right? Which is really downplayed how much artists are getting paid. They're getting paid a fraction of what they should be getting paid. So now with these name, image, likeness deals that are out there, right? There's going to be even more creative ways for you athletes to go in and kind of capitalize off of your name, your image, your likeness. It could be you going in and doing some type of promotional endorsement deal. It could be you being in these commercials, right? It could also become, I was talking about Kai Cenat earlier. It could be you becoming a streamer, you creating this additional audience because you already have the fans and the people that love you. And now you're looking at other ways to monetize that. And now you're introducing something to the sport that may not even exist yet. Right? So it's super creative in the way that you position it. Don't just look at what's already happening. Look at what's already happening and then sit there and dream about it and be this individual that says, you know what? I'm going to bring something different to the table with this. And do it and be the best that you possibly can be at doing it.
Woo. Bring something different to the table. Now, the gentleman you're mentioning, who is he? You've mentioned him several times throughout the conversation.
Right. So Kai Cenat, Kai Cenat is a big time streamer, right? So this guy is streaming. He's getting 100,000. He's getting 200,000 people that will watch his streams, and he's early 20s. You know, and you guys will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure in the comments you guys will correct me. How old is Kai Cenat? So let me know. He's got to be like 20, 21, right? But he's getting hundreds of thousands and multi-million-dollar deals. But that's because he took his creativity and his ingenuity and he brought it to Twitch and to YouTube and to Instagram and all of these platforms. And he says, I'm going to create my own audience. I'll create the demand within that audience, and now I'm going to serve my audience. And he did it in a very unorthodox way, which is now netting him tens of millions of dollars. So that's what I mean by looking at these, these name, image, likeness deals, and not only just following the traditional route. And it's kind of vary, right? Because I don't think it's a federal thing. I think it's state by state.
State, right? Correct.
State. So looking at what are the rules and regulations within your state. And then being creative and saying, okay, well, what else can I bring to the table here?
Right? Wow. I love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, he got to go. That's Ty Cohen, renowned internet marketer. You just saw he gave us jewels in a small amount of time that people pay a lot of money for to have access to him. But he's giving you his number. You can also go visit TyCohen.com. That's TyCohen.com. Listen, young people, you have the opportunity to create something magical in your world. And Ty Cohen himself just talked about being creative and innovative. Creative is the idea. Innovative is actually doing the work to get it done.
That's it.
Implementation, young people. So listen, thank you, Ty. Brother, been a tremendous, tremendous asset to me, a tremendous friend, a tremendous brother, a tremendous mentor. And I thank you once again from everybody at Youth Education and Sports. You've listened to Ty Cohen on his Student Athlete Playbook video conversation feature. If you have not gotten your books, your copy of the Amazon bestseller, The Student Athlete Playbook, Success in the Classroom, Sports, and Life, go visit locally here in Atlanta in person, Madu Bookstore inside of Greenbrier Mall, Nubian Bookstore out in South Lake, right there with my brother Marcus. And then also you can go to Amazon to pick up the books. Just put in Student Athlete Playbook. All the books will pop up. And of course, you can go to our website, youtheducationandsports.org, and pick up your copies. And hey, we say thank you and good evening, and we'll speak to you soon. One love.
Thank you. Stay well.